The laughingstock. Marcus Chen wiped the grease from his hands with a rag that had seen better decades. At 45, his weathered face told the story of countless hours spent beneath the hulls of ships in the San Francisco Naval Shipyard. His calloused fingers moved with practiced precision as he examined the massive destroyer that loomed above him in dry dock. The U.S. Defiance, a World War I veteran, was scheduled for scrapping next month. Marcus had other plans. The morning had started like any other until the sky turned dark with alien ships. Massive vessels, each the size of aircraft carriers, had materialized above every major city on Earth. The Zephyrian Empire, as they called themselves, had delivered a simple message: surrender or face obliteration. That was 3 weeks ago, and humanity's response had been swift and utterly useless. Marcus remembered watching the news coverage as the world's most advanced fighter jets bounced harmlessly off alien shields. Nuclear missiles were swatted aside like annoying insects. The aliens didn't even seem to consider Earth's military a threat worth addressing directly. They simply established orbital stations and began systematically dismantling human infrastructure with methodical efficiency. Most people had either fled to underground shelters or resigned themselves to whatever fate awaited them. Marcus Chen had gone to work on his crazy idea. The destroyer's hull stretched 376 feet from bow to stern, its steel plates scared but solid. Built in 1943, the Defiance had survived Guadalcanal, Iwo Jima, and Korean War service before being decommissioned and forgotten. Now it might be humanity's last hope, though Marcus was probably the only person on Earth who believed that. Still playing with your toy boat, Rusty? Marcus turned to see Jake Morrison, one of the few other shipyard workers who hadn't fled the city. Jake stood with arms crossed, shaking his head at the organized chaos surrounding the destroyer. Alien technology components, salvaged from crash sites where brave scavengers had risked their lives, lay scattered across workbenches. Cables snaked between strange crystalline devices and the ship's original systems. "She's not a toy," Marcus replied, running his hand along a hull plate. "She's a weapon." Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Rusty, those alien ships up there are the size of Manhattan. They've got shields that can stop nuclear weapons. What exactly do you think a 70-year-old destroyer is going to do against them?" Marcus didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pointed to a device that looked like a metallic flower with pulsing blue petals. "This is a Zephyrian power coupling. I pulled it from a scout ship that crashed near Oakland. Their entire energy system is based on harmonic resonance frequencies." "And that means what exactly?" "It means their shields work by matching and canceling incoming energy patterns. But this old girl," Marcus patted the destroyer's hull, "she doesn't operate on energy patterns they've encountered before. Steam turbines, mechanical firing systems, analog targeting computers. She's so primitive, their shields might not even recognize her as a threat." Jake stared at him. "You're betting the human race on might not." "I'm betting the human race on humanity's greatest strength," Marcus corrected. "We adapt. We improvise. We make do with what we have and find ways to win against impossible odds." Over the following days, Marcus worked 18-hour shifts, aided by an unlikely crew of volunteers. Elena Rodriguez, a marine biologist from the nearby aquarium, had shown up with detailed knowledge of the alien tech's bioneural interfaces. At 32, she possessed a brilliant mind and steady hands that made her invaluable for the delicate work of integrating alien systems with human engineering. Tony Park, barely 19 and fresh out of community college, had somehow managed to hack into several alien communication networks. His baby face and nervous energy made him seem like an unlikely warrior, but his digital skills were proving essential for coordinating their salvage operations and staying ahead of alien patrols. Sarah Williams, a 60-year-old retired Navy engineer, had been the first to take Marcus's plans seriously. Her gray hair was always pulled back in a no-nonsense bun, and her sharp blue eyes missed nothing. She understood both the destroyer's original systems and the theoretical principles behind Marcus's modifications. Together, they worked to transform the Defiance from a museum piece into something unprecedented, a hybrid vessel that married 1940s naval engineering with stolen alien technology. The modifications were extensive and often experimental. The original 5-inch guns were recalibrated to fire projectiles wrapped in alien energy fields. The radar system was replaced with Zephyrian sensors that could track targets through dimensional space. Most importantly, the ship's power plant was augmented with alien cores that provided energy levels the original designers never could have imagined. "Marcus, you need to see this," Alina called from the forward weapons control room. She was bent over a console that now displayed information in 3 dimensions, alien symbols floating in holographic space. "The bioneural interface is learning. It's actually adapting to our thought patterns." Marcus joined her, watching as the alien display responded to Alina's mental commands. The targeting system was tracking multiple objects simultaneously, calculating firing solutions with inhuman precision. "Can you control it?" "I think so. It's like the ship is becoming aware of us, learning to work with us instead of just being operated by us." Alina's eyes were bright with excitement and fear. "Marcus, this isn't just a ship anymore. It's becoming something entirely new." Tommy's voice crackled over the comm system. "We've got company. 3 alien scouts approaching from the northwest. They'll be in visual range in 10 minutes. Marcus felt his heart rate spike. This would be their first real test. "Sarah, how are the engines?" "Steam pressure is nominal. Alien power cores are synchronized. We can move when you're ready." "Alina, can you get us targeting data?" "Already locked on. The bioneural system is showing me things I've never seen before. I can see their shield frequencies, their weapon charge patterns, even their crew positions." Marcus took his place at what had once been the ship's helm but now resembled something from a science fiction movie. Alien controls had been integrated seamlessly with the original steering mechanisms. When he placed his hands on the wheel, he could feel the ship's awareness responding to his intentions. "Cast off all lines," he ordered, his voice carrying across the shipyard. "All hands, prepare for combat." The Defiance slid into San Francisco Bay with surprising grace for a ship that had been dry-docked for decades. Steam rose from her stacks as the hybrid power system came online, alien energy cores humming in harmony with mechanical turbines. The water churned white at her stern as she picked up speed. The alien scouts appeared as silver streaks against the evening sky, their hulls reflecting the last light of sunset. They were elegant, deadly, and utterly confident. These ships had destroyed entire naval fleets without sustaining damage. They approached the old destroyer with the casual arrogance of predators closing in on wounded prey. "They're scanning us," Tommy reported. "Energy signatures, structural analysis, weapons assessment." "Wait." His voice changed, becoming puzzled. "They're confused. Their sensors are getting contradictory readings." Marcus smiled grimly. "That's because we're not entirely human technology anymore, and we're not entirely alien either. We're something they've never seen before." The lead scout fired first, a beam of coherent energy that should have vaporized the destroyer's forward section. Instead, the beam struck the ship's new shields and scattered into harmless light. The alien weapon was designed to overwhelm human technology, but the Defiance's hybrid defenses operated on principles that fell outside their tactical programming. "Return fire," Marcus ordered. Alina's hands moved over the bioneural interface, her thoughts directly controlling the targeting system. The forward guns rotated with mechanical precision, tracking the alien vessel with impossible accuracy. When they fired, the projectiles were wrapped in energy fields that punched through the scouts' shields like they weren't there. The alien ship exploded in a brilliant flash of blue-white fire. The remaining 2 scouts broke formation, their elegant confidence replaced by frantic evasive maneuvers. They had never encountered an enemy that could penetrate their defenses, and their tactical programming was struggling to adapt. "They're transmitting to their command ship," Tommy reported. Looks like they're calling for reinforcements. Good, Marcus said, his hand steady on the hybrid controls. Let them come. Let them see what happens when you underestimate human ingenuity. The second scout attempted a strafing run, diving low over the water to rake the destroyer with weapons fire. But the Defiance was no longer limited to conventional movement. The alien power cores allowed her to accelerate and maneuver in ways that defied her size and age. She twisted through the water like a living thing, her guns tracking the enemy vessel with predatory precision. Sarah's voice came over the comm. Engine room reports all systems nominal. These alien power cores are incredible, Marcus. We're operating at efficiency levels that shouldn't be possible. The second scout died as spectacularly as the first, its wreckage raining down into the bay. The third vessel, apparently deciding that discretion was the better part of valor, began a rapid climb toward orbit. Tommy, can you stop it from reporting back? Already on it, the young hacker replied. I'm jamming their communications and feeding false data to their command ship. As far as the Zephyrians know, their scouts are still on patrol. Marcus allowed himself a moment of satisfaction as he watched the alien vessel disappear into the night sky. Around him, his crew was celebrating their first victory, but he knew this was only the beginning. They had proven that the Defiance could fight, but the real test would come when the aliens realized what humanity had accomplished. Elena, what's the bioneural interface telling you about their fleet composition? She closed her eyes, her consciousness interfacing directly with the alien systems they had integrated into the ship. When she opened them again, her expression was grim. There are over 200 ships in orbit, Marcus, and they're building something massive on the dark side of the moon. Something that makes their current fleet look like toys. How long do we have? Based on construction patterns, maybe 2 weeks before whatever they're building comes online. Marcus nodded, his mind already working on the next phase of their impossible plan. The Defiance had won her first battle, but the war was just beginning. Around him, his crew waited for orders, their faces reflecting a mixture of hope and determination that he hadn't seen since the invasion began. Tommy, start monitoring all communication frequencies. I want to know what the aliens are planning and where their weak points are. Sarah, begin preparations for extended operations. We're going to need more firepower and better defenses. Elena, keep working with the bioneural interface. Learn everything you can about their technology. What about you, Marcus? Elena asked. Marcus looked out at the lights of the city, many of them dark now as humanity huddled in fear. Somewhere above, alien ships continued their methodical dismantling of human civilization. But here in San Francisco Bay, an old destroyer had just proven that humanity wasn't finished yet. I'm going to figure out how to turn this rust bucket into the weapon that saves the world, he said. Because if there's one thing humans are good at, it's taking something everyone else thinks is worthless and using it to change everything. The Defiance cut through the dark waters of the bay, her hybrid systems humming with alien energy and human determination. Above them, the stars were hidden by enemy ships, but in the depths of the old destroyer's hull, something new was being born, something that the galaxy had never seen before, something that would make the aliens regret the day they decided to underestimate humanity. David vs. Goliath. 2 weeks after their first victory, the U.S. Defiance had become something that defied classification. The old destroyer now bristled with hybrid technology that merged human engineering with alien innovation in ways neither species had ever imagined. Marcus Chen stood on the bridge, watching his crew work with the focused intensity of people who knew they were humanity's last hope. The ship had grown. That was the only way to describe what had happened. The bioneural interfaces hadn't just learned to work with human operators, they had begun to adapt the ship itself. New weapon systems had grown from the original hull like technological coral, each one a unique fusion of human creativity and alien capability. The Defiance was no longer just a vessel. She had become a living symbol of human adaptability. Marcus, you need to see this, Elena called from her station. Over the past weeks, her connection with the biomural systems had deepened. Sometimes Marcus wondered if she was still entirely human or if the alien technology was changing her. Her eyes now held flecks of the same blue light that pulsed through the ship's hybrid systems. "What have you found?" Alina's hands moved through holographic displays that showed the lunar construction project in 3 dimensions. The structure was massive, easily 10 times larger than any of the orbital ships. "It's not a weapon, Marcus. It's a gateway." "Gateway to what?" "More fleets. Maybe dozens of them." Alina's voice was tight with fear. "The Zephyrians aren't just invading Earth. They're using it as a staging ground for something much larger. Once that gateway is operational, they'll have unlimited reinforcements." Sarah Williams looked up from the engineering console where she had been monitoring the ship's power systems. "How long before it's finished?" 18 hours, Alina replied. "Once it comes online, we won't be fighting one fleet. We'll be fighting an entire galactic empire." Tommy Park, now wearing a headset that interfaced directly with the ship's communication systems, suddenly straightened. "Marcus, I'm picking up transmissions from other survivor groups. There are more people fighting back than we thought." Over the past weeks, they had rescued dozens of survivors from the ruins of San Francisco and the surrounding Bay Area. The Defiance now carried a crew of 87 people, all volunteers who had chosen to stand and fight rather than hide. They had become a family forged by impossible circumstances and united by stubborn human refusal to surrender. "Put it on the main display," Marcus ordered. The bridge filled with voices from around the world. A group of Australian engineers had somehow weaponized the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Russian submariners were conducting guerrilla attacks from beneath the Arctic ice. In the Amazon, indigenous communities were using alien technology to turn the rainforest itself into a weapon. Everywhere, humans were doing what humans did best, finding ways to fight back against impossible odds. "They're all reporting the same thing," Tommy said. "Increased alien activity focused on lunar construction. It's like they're pulling resources from planetary occupation to finish whatever they're building up there." Marcus felt the pieces of a plan beginning to form in his mind. "Alina, can the biomural interface give us detailed schematics of that lunar facility?" She closed her eyes and interfaced with the ship's hybrid consciousness. The sensation was becoming more natural each time, like slipping into a second skin made of light and data. When she opened her eyes, complex diagrams filled the air around them. "There," she said, pointing to a crystalline structure at the heart of the facility. "That's the gateway's power source. It's drawing energy directly from the lunar core, but the resonance frequency is unstable. If something could disrupt the harmonic balance, the whole thing would collapse." Sarah finished, her engineer's mind immediately grasping the implications. "But we'd have to get close enough to affect the resonance pattern directly." Marcus studied the schematics, his weathered face reflecting the blue glow of alien technology. "How close?" "Close enough to touch it," Alina said quietly. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The lunar facility was protected by the largest concentration of alien ships in the solar system. Getting close enough to disrupt the gateway would require flying through the heart of the enemy fleet. It would be a suicide mission. "There might be another way," Tommy said hesitantly. "I've been monitoring the alien communication networks, and I think I've figured out how their command structure works. They have a single control ship that coordinates all fleet activities. If we could take it out, the entire fleet would be paralyzed," Marcus realized. "At least temporarily. Long enough for us to reach the gateway," Sarah added. "But Marcus, even the Defiance can't fight 200 ships at once." Marcus looked around at his crew, these ordinary people who had accomplished extraordinary things. Alina, who had learned to think like an alien computer. Tommy, who had turned his gaming skills into genuine warfare expertise. Sarah, whose 60 years of experience had proven invaluable in integrating technologies that shouldn't have been compatible, and dozens of others, each contributing their unique skills to their impossible mission. "We don't have to fight 200 ships," Marcus said slowly. "We just have to outsmart them." Over the next 12 hours, the Defiance underwent her final transformation. Using techniques they had learned from weeks of experimentation, the crew began growing new systems directly from the ship's bioneural core. Weapon systems that could fire in multiple directions simultaneously. Defensive fields that adapted in real time to enemy attacks. Most importantly, a cloaking system that would make them invisible to all known scanning methods. The bioneural interface is reaching some kind of critical mass, Elena reported as the modifications neared completion. It's not just learning anymore, Marcus. It's creating, coming up with solutions we never could have imagined. Marcus felt it too. When he placed his hands on the ship's controls, he could sense the Defiance's artificial consciousness responding to his thoughts. The line between human and machine was blurring, creating something entirely new. All stations report ready, Sarah announced as they prepared for their final mission. Tommy, what's the fleet status? Most of the orbital ships have moved to lunar positions to protect the gateway. There are only 30 vessels left in Earth orbit, and half of those are damaged from resistance activities. Marcus nodded. The worldwide human resistance had done more than survive. They had forced the aliens to divide their attention. Now it was time to make their sacrifice count. Take us up, Marcus ordered. The Defiance rose from San Francisco Bay like a mythical creature emerging from the depths. Her hybrid systems allowed her to transition seamlessly from water to air to space, defying every law of conventional physics. As they climbed through the atmosphere, the ship's cloaking field engaged, rendering them invisible to alien sensors. Space around Earth was a maze of alien vessels, each one bristling with weapons that could vaporize a city. But the Defiance slipped between them like a ghost, her bioneural consciousness calculating navigation paths that no conventional computer could have managed. There, Elena said, highlighting a massive ship near the moon. That's the command vessel. It's coordinating the entire fleet through quantum entanglement networks. And there's our target, Marcus added, indicating the crystalline gateway structure that now dominated the lunar surface. It pulsed with malevolent energy, preparing to open a passage that would doom not just Earth, but potentially every free world in the galaxy. The command ship was a work of art in metal and energy, its hull flowing in curves that seemed to bend space around them. It was easily 5 times larger than the Defiance, protected by shields that had never been penetrated, armed with weapons that could crack planets. Marcus, Sarah said quietly, even with all our modifications, we can't match their firepower. We don't need to match it, Marcus replied. We just need to be better than it. They approached the command ship from its blind spot, using gravitational fields to mask their approach. When they were close enough to count the alien crew through the transparent sections of hull, Marcus gave the order. All weapons, fire. The Defiance unleashed everything she had in a single coordinated barrage. Hybrid weapons that fired solid matter wrapped in energy fields. Beam weapons that operated on frequencies the aliens had never encountered. Most devastating of all, bioneural viruses that Tommy had crafted specifically to overload alien computer systems. The command ship's shields flared and died. Its hull, designed to withstand conventional attacks, crumpled under weapons that operated on principles its creators had never imagined. In less than 30 seconds, the coordinator of the entire Zephyrian fleet was reduced to expanding gas and debris. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Across the solar system, alien ships began to drift aimlessly as their coordination networks collapsed. Some collided with each other. Others simply shut down, their crews struggling to operate without centralized command. Now for the gateway, Marcus said, spinning the ship toward the lunar surface. But their attack on the command ship had not gone unnoticed. A dozen Guardian vessels broke away from the lunar facility, their weapons charging for a desperate defense of the gateway. These were the elite of the Zephyrian fleet, ships designed specifically to protect their most important installations. Incoming, Tommy announced. Multiple missile locks, energy weapons charging. They're throwing everything at us. The space around the Defiance exploded with weapons fire. Energy beams that could melt asteroids, missiles with warheads designed to crack moons, gravity weapons that tried to crush the old destroyer like a tin can. But the ship had become something beyond the understanding of either human or alien engineers. Alina's consciousness merged completely with the bioneural interface, her awareness expanding to encompass the ship's entire sensory network. She could see the paths of incoming weapons, predict the movement of enemy vessels, even sense the intentions of alien crews. Her hands moved through holographic controls as she danced the Defiance through patterns of destruction that should have been impossible. Sarah pushed the hybrid engines beyond their design limits, drawing power from the bioneural core in ways that made the ship's hull glow with barely contained energy. Speed and maneuverability that defied physics carried them through fields of fire that would have destroyed a fleet. Tommy fought a different kind of battle, his consciousness linked directly to the ship's offensive systems. He turned alien weapons against each other, hijacked their targeting systems, used their own coordination networks to spread chaos through their ranks. And Marcus held it all together, his hands on controls that responded to his thoughts, his will shaping the ship's hybrid consciousness into a weapon of impossible precision. The old destroyer moved through space like a living thing, every system working in perfect harmony toward a single goal. One by one, the Guardian ships fell, some destroyed by weapons they couldn't defend against, others simply overwhelmed by tactics they couldn't comprehend. The Defiance pressed forward, her hull scared but intact, her crew united in purpose. There it is, Alina breathed as the gateway structure filled their view screen. The crystalline formation was beautiful and terrible, its faceted surfaces reflecting the light of Earth and Moon in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Energy flowed through it in visible streams, building toward the moment when it would tear a hole in space-time itself. Sarah, can you get us close enough? I can get us there. But Marcus, the energy discharge when that thing activates will destroy anything within 1,000 kilometers. Marcus looked around the bridge at his crew, these ordinary people who had become heroes. They understood what he was asking of them. They had always understood. Do it, he said quietly. The Defiance accelerated toward the gateway, her hybrid engines pouring out more power than the original designers could have dreamed possible. Around them, the last of the Guardian ships gave chase, their weapons desperately trying to stop the old destroyer before she could reach her target. Impact in 30 seconds, Sarah announced. Alina, can you disrupt the resonance from here? Alina's consciousness reached out through the bioneural interface, touching the alien systems that controlled the gateway. For a moment, she felt the vast intelligence behind the Zephyrian Empire, cold and calculating and utterly convinced of its superiority. Then she found what she was looking for. Got it, she said. But Marcus, the feedback will. I know, he said gently. Do it. Alina reached deep into the gateway's control systems and introduced a single discordant note into its harmonic frequency. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The crystalline structure began to vibrate, its carefully tuned resonance patterns collapsing into chaos. The explosion lit up half the solar system. When the light faded, the gateway was gone, reduced to glittering dust scattered across the lunar surface. The U.S. Defiance floated nearby, her hull glowing with heat, but intact, protected by bioneural shields that had somehow held against forces that should have vaporized her. Across the solar system, the remaining alien ships were in chaos, without their command structure or their gateway. The mighty Zephyrian fleet was just a collection of confused vessels, crewed by beings who had never faced a real fight. One by one, they began to withdraw, fleeing back to whatever distant stars had spawned them. Tommy, are you getting any transmissions from the fleet? The young hacker listened to the alien communication networks with equipment that was now more bioneural than electronic. They're terrified, Marcus. They've never encountered anything like us before. The word they keep using translates roughly to impossible beings. Marcus smiled, feeling exhaustion settle into his bones. That sounds about right. As they began their journey back to Earth, Marcus reflected on what they had accomplished. An old destroyer, a crew of ordinary people, and the stubborn human refusal to accept defeat had somehow turned the tide against a galactic empire. It shouldn't have been possible, but then again, humans had always specialized in impossible things. Marcus, Alina said softly. She was looking more human now, the blue glow fading from her eyes as the biomural interface powered down. What happens now? Marcus looked out at the stars, no longer hidden behind alien ships. Somewhere out there, the Zephyrian Empire was reassessing everything they thought they knew about conquest and resistance. Other species would hear about what had happened here, about the world that had fought back with ancient ships and hybrid technology and pure human determination. Now we go home, he said. And we make sure that anyone else who thinks humans are easy targets learns the same lesson the Zephyrians did. The U.S. Defiance turned toward Earth, her bioneural systems humming with satisfaction. She had been born as a weapon of war, evolved into something beyond human or alien understanding, and emerged as a symbol of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to adapt, to overcome, and to find victory in the most impossible circumstances. Behind them, the wreckage of the alien gateway caught the light of the sun, a monument to the day humanity proved that sometimes the laughingstock becomes the legend.